You are listening to the US of NA by Nation Beer, a series of stories about the people and places from every corner of the country who are helping fuel the NA beer movement. If you like this episode, please add us to your library in Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you prefer to listen. For more great NA stories, including our many beer reviews, visit nationbeer.com. Would you love to get free stuff in exchange for helping non-alcoholic brands get cans in hands? Or are you an NA brand yourself interested in expanding your reach? Join the waitlist to find out about our new Grassroots Ambassador program launching later this year. Just go to nation.beer to find out more. Welcome to the US of NA. I'm your host and chief optimist, John Eggleton, founder of Nation Beer. Today I'm going to be joined by a pair of founders from the New England brewery town of Portland, Maine. Will Fisher and Rob Barrett are two entrepreneurs with at least 5 startup credits between them, one of those being Kit NA, a non-alcoholic brewery that launched in 2021. We'll hear the story of how they started the business, their philosophy of growing steadily and focusing on a good product above all else, how they view collaboration in a category not exactly known for that yet, and lastly, we talk about why mental health emerged as a cause they wanted to be part of as a company. In upcoming episodes, we'll be hearing from some different voices in the industry, but we've really enjoyed this recent string of conversations we've had with NA brewery founders. They all have different stories and backgrounds, many of whom have had limited prior experience in the beverage or brewing space. At Kit NA, for example, while Will was and is the founder brewer at a traditional brewery that's also based in Portland before Kit, we'll get into that in the episode, Rob's background was primarily in construction and real estate. There is clearly a lot of talent and entrepreneurial spirit that is poured into the NA space, pun intended, and it's exciting to see the impact these new founders are having. Hope you enjoy the conversation. So today I'm joined by the pair of co-founders from Portland, Maine's Kit NA Brewing, Will Fisher and Rob Barrett. I'll let them share a bit of their backstory here in a moment, but Kit has been around since 2021. And through recent expansions and partnerships is now available on much of the U.S. East Coast with distribution in states as far south as Georgia. So Will and Rob, first off, thanks for joining us and welcome to the U.S. of NA.
Hey, thanks, John. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So first things first, I've got one of your sampler kits in my fridge right now. And so I'm about to open up one of your Get Set wheat, I should say. So it's, I think, probably my favorite of the portfolio. So I know this is an audio podcast, so no one can see me, but hopefully you can hear me crack this open.
Great sound.
So I'll be sipping on this. Yeah, I'll be sipping on this as we go through the interview. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. I know, Rob, you have a background in construction and real estate development, and Will, you're the co-founder, CEO of a traditional brewery as well that's also based there in Portland called Austin Street Brewery. I think just looking at both of your backgrounds between the two of you, it seems like you have many entrepreneurial or done many entrepreneurial things, both of you, which is awesome. So we'd love to kind of hear the backstory and how you guys ended up partnering up on Kit NA.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks again for having us. And our meeting was actually through the businesses we owned at the time. So through Rob's construction business, we invited his business come over and do some work at the brewery. And that's how we first met. So Rob came in and we started chatting and got to know a little bit about each other. And then not long after, Rob was doing a local TV show to help promote the construction business, and one of the stops on the show was back at the brewery. So we sort of rejoined, and as the story goes, we had some traditional beers in our hands, and we were cheersing to wrap up the episode. And Rob wasn't drinking, I was abstaining at the time, and so we both these kind of fake sips to close out the episode, and kind of picked up on a little bit. And Rob was like, "Hey, I noticed you didn't really take a drink at the end of the episode," and we just started talking basically and started talking about craft beer, and one thing led to another. But that's the original meetup. That's how it all happened. So that's pretty cool.
Well, it does seem like there's a lot of entrepreneurial tie-ins. I know when we've talked with other founders or just other people who are in this category, it definitely seems to speak to people who have that in their blood already. And, you get a couple of entrepreneurs like the two of you together and, some like-mindedness, I'm sure came about. And so that's great that's how it got started. So let's talk about your portfolio of beers a little bit. So I know you have three in the current portfolio now: an American Blonde, the wheat that I'm drinking right now, and an IPA. And I know you before the wheat, which I think was the newest one, you had another IPA that was part of that mix. What are your plans in terms of, I guess how you want to evolve the product set? I know you've had some recent expansions, and I know just trying to grow, as a brand being, only 3 or so years old. But what's sort of your strategy or plan in terms of growing the portfolio, and any talk of maybe having seasonal releases or getting into some of that, or what are you guys looking at?
Yeah, when we kind of going back to our original story, the first thing we really did was we ordered and picked up as many NA beers as we could find, and we sat down together and drank them in a room and talked about what we liked and didn't like about the beers, and that's kind of how we got going. And we realized that there were some great beers out there. There were some that were still developing, and we really felt like we could do it, as good if not better if we really did it the right way and use some of like the background in brewing chemistry along with our entrepreneurial, experience and expertise to really drive something special. That's where we started. So we started with this like broad range of variety, but we decided pretty early on that we would want to keep it concise for a few different reasons. Really just across the board, like we wanted to have fewer things to sort of manage on our end, which is always easier for a business owner. But most importantly, we wanted to have sort of like a lighter portfolio for the retailers and the wholesalers, and make it easier for our consumers to find our beers and just enjoy them and try them out and have them be in their fridge and part of their life. I think a lot of consumers we talk to are fatigued when they get to the beer shelf, and there's so many options and so many things, and some things are alcohol free and some aren't, and some have THC and some don't. And it's like, there's just like, not trickery. Everyone's trying to do their best to keep their brands separate, but it's just tough at the shelf. It's sort of turning into like the cereal aisle, right? And it's just like a lot. So we thought we would start here and build a strong foundation, focus on these core beers to propel the business forward. But to really answer your question, we have all kinds of other recipes and other ideas, other beers we'd like to make. So we think we'll see those out in the market as early as next year, I'd say, maybe sooner. But we're ready. We have many we have many in the bank ready to go.
So I want to go back to, I mentioned in the intro, Will, you also own Austin Street Brewery there in Portland as well. What was, I guess we're already in the brewing game on the, traditional side. So what was the reaction, I guess, in terms of, the folks that you work with on that end, when you decided to go into NA, and how do those breweries, or how does Kit NA and Austin Street interact, if at all, at this point?
There's not much interaction at all, really. I'm the only shared resource between the two. And Rob's always been a great business partner from day one of making sure that we maintain a separate message as well. Because really, one of the best things about Kit, I think, is that it is its own thing. There's so many breweries that have done NA versions of their flagships, which is totally fine. But we thought it was important, and Rob has always pushed that it's its own separate thing and exists on its own. And we give it that specific commitment, which we do. Our entire team is independent for this brand, and I think it makes a big difference. We talk to folks everywhere that say the same. Like, it's really cool to see that it's not just like a grab. It's like, you guys are actually committed to this. We're consumers of NA beer, and we're here to stay. So I think it's really cool. And as far as the staff is concerned, at Austin Street, it was very well received. We sell a lot of Kit in our tasting rooms, and a lot of brewery tasting rooms around the Northeast, and a lot of the employees there are big Kit fans now as well. So it went over very well, and it's just, you've seen it, it's everywhere. Like, it's popping up all over the place, and we're sometimes first on the menu a couple of years ago, and now we're one of a few different NA beers. There's an NA cocktail list, so it's awesome to see it grow. It's what we were really hoping for when we started, and it's definitely happening.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was going to ask you if it was available in the other brewery as well, and that certainly makes sense. And I know in one of our conversations like these, we were talking with a traditional brewer in Asheville, Doug Reeser, is the co-founder of Burial Beer down there, and he was mentioning to us that after they added their NA lines, and they were doing NA within their existing brewery, so it's a little different situation. But he had mentioned when they started having staff meetings with the bartenders and everybody, that there were a few people who had gone sober, who worked there. And once they had an NA, were able to, go pour themselves an NA and kind of join that communal experience with the rest of the team, and how cool that was to kind of see that. So it's great that you're able, even if they're separate entities and that all makes sense, but to have that be available. And if anybody, wants to have an NA, depending on whatever they're doing that day or whatever they have going on, that's great.
Yeah, I think Rob can speak to this a little bit more, but my understanding is that there's a pretty solid like drinking culture in my industry, in brewing and like in restaurant and hospitality, but also in the construction industry as well. I don't know if that's the case or not, but yeah. So it's like we kind of both got to a point where we're like, all right, this isn't really where we want to be any longer, how we want to be doing things we're doing. We've found other ways to do it. We feel better doing it this way without alcohol. And so I think what I'm seeing now is I think people are not afraid to discover that in themselves, and they're not afraid to like recognize that, and they're being a little bit more bold about their decisions and saying, I'm just going to do whatever's best for me. But also people are being a lot more accepting of those decisions nowadays too, which is great to see. So I think it's just starting to peel away and become a huge movement. It's already wild growth right now. But as far as like the total population, it's really going to get crazy here pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, so you were mentioning, Will, that the NA aisle looks a little bit like the cereal aisle, or at least it's getting to that point, and that certainly seems to be the case. And looking at your launch day 2021, there were a handful of non-alcoholic only breweries, I think, at that point in time. But there was just in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of newer ones that have jumped into the mix, and many who are doing contract brewing or have different various models out there. So as you guys look to build this brand, what do you really want to hang your hat on, or what are you most proud of in terms of what you've built so far, or what you're looking to build the brand into?
I think so far, we were going to start going back to the beginning, and I'll talk about some current stuff, but going back to the beginning, we were going to start with like a pretty small operation. We were going to be a sort of NA regional craft brewery. And right from the start, a very large chain asked us to be in every one of their stores across the Northeast before we even had a product in a can yet. And it immediately took us off in this like wild trajectory of growth. And we looked at each other and said, we're crazy not to take this opportunity. Like, we're here to take risks. We're here to have a good time and get this rolling. So we did it. We jumped in feet first, and our entire model changed from brewing all the beer right in our own little spot to having an excellent contract partner and realizing all the benefits of that relationship. And it just kept on that momentum and moved forward and forward and forward. And we keep adding these major chains. We keep adding distribution through additional states. We're 11 states in DC right now. It just keeps going and going. So we have great support from our consumers and fans, and it's been awesome. I think when it comes to the beer itself, to hang our hat on, I think the quality of the beer is really number one. That's something that everyone says, oh, our beer tastes great, or my employees are the best employees in the world, or my kids are the best kids, they're the smartest kids I've ever met. Like, so there's these things of like this, we have this like thing in our head, but I know that kit is special. The liquid it's different and it's special. We use excellent ingredients. We use basic ingredients, products fully fermented. It's real beer. It's just less than 0.5% of alcohol. So that's something that's really impressive to us. And it's also showed in all the accolades. We've multiple award-winning brand for all of our beers. We're very proud of that. There's a lot of breweries that are a lot bigger than us that make great NA beer, and we've beat some of them in competitions, which is awesome. We respect them. Their beer tastes great. We think ours does too. And so that's something we're really proud of and has been really important to us. And it's made the growth of the business slower and harder because our beer costs more to make. But we think at the end of the day, if at least have that, then we're going to be just fine.
No, you're right. As I think as the category has grown, definitely. The beer has to be good, right? You have to be able to walk the walk. And that's sort of the difference between when this was more of a substitute category years ago, where it was just something to have when people weren't drinking, the dusty bottle of Jules or whatever that a restaurant would carry for people who would ask for it, once a week or once a month or whatever the case. And now the standards are higher, and that's that's a good thing. And I'm sure it's exciting for people like you who've been brewing beer, and that's been your focus since you guys started this thing. So would definitely agree with all that. So shifting a little bit to talk about kind of brand and brand extension. So I know mental health awareness is something that's been really important to you guys since the beginning. Since you launched the brand, you guys have been involved in different causes there. Just wanted to hear from you just why that jumped out to you and why that was so important for you to get involved in, and how you see that playing out, or how you guys would like to be involved in that space moving forward.
Yeah, mental health is very important to us. And, from the get-go, one of the most enlightening things that happened for me when I stopped drinking alcohol and made the switch to all non-alcoholic beer was just how good I slept, for one, but then the benefits from that, and just the mental clarity, and then if your mind's right, you can get a lot of other things right physically. An immediate chain reaction to those benefits. And so when we were about a year into the business, we're like, okay, well, let's really go all in again on mind over body, and make this something that we truly feel strongly about, and that we can tell our employees, and our marketing message will be mind and experience versus something else. So we've partnered with some musical acts and artists that struggle with either mental illness, or struggle through having some either negative side effects through drugs and alcohol and things like that, and like promoting healthy, mindful weekends or Friday nights, Saturdays, all that. So we're really pushing that hard. That's a very broad area to be in. So, and it's also kind of, so it can be a touchy subject as well. So we're trying to tread lightly, but really our message is promoting mental health and trying to, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to recognize it. And we know that alcohol plays a big part in mental health. And, speaking from experience myself, like I said earlier, I've seen some great benefits from cutting alcohol out of my life mentally. So I know it's there. People don't like being told what to do, so we're not pushing the agenda too hard, but we know it's there, and that we know it'll grow organically once other people realize the benefits of cutting alcohol out.
And we know too that I think the most recent figure is 92% of non-alc beer drinkers also drink beer with alcohol. So it's a big shared space, and so we know that it's like Rob said, no one likes to be told what to do. We're not preaching that it's bad if you don't abstain completely, right? We just think it's different for every person, right? And it's mind and experience, like Rob said. It's whatever works for you.
Right.
It's great, We
want it to be a choice. We want to empower people to make a choice, and whatever's right for them.
No, that makes total sense. And, it's such a, mental health and supporting mental health causes makes so much sense for the category of NA. And to me, I think what gets a lot of focus within the NA category seems to be the exercising and, that the physical part of healthy living. And certainly that's important too. And there's many benefits, as you guys know, to lower alcohol beers and, not consuming alcohol. But the mental health side is just so important. I mean, aside from the physical benefits that people talk about, when cutting back or eliminating alcohol, the mental side is always, a close second, if not the first thing. Yeah. They talk about as you talked about, Rob, the mental acuity and just the sharpness and, the presence, being able to be more present is a big piece of that too. So
our physicians are not experts. So we direct, we raise money and we give to people and places that are qualified to be actually handling or making these situations better, helping people with their mental health and well-being. So our direction is we can't really say we do this directly, nor should we, but we can sort of direct our energy and sort of what we're doing to these funds to help them do their work. And also, like Rob was saying, just start the conversation. That's one of the biggest things around health and well-being, mental health and well-being. If you look, is that people just are afraid to talk about it, and they hold everything in, and that just becomes something else. And so this is
right.
This great to it's okay. It's okay to have an NA beer. There should be no pressure to drink alcohol, and talk about it.
So I want to go back to the brewery side a little bit. Portland, Maine, it's a great beer town. We've not been there, although we hope to change that at some point in the future. I believe you guys have about 30 or so breweries there in town.
At least, yeah, that's a lot.
I want to go back to, I think you were talking earlier, Will, about, you respect others who are doing bigger company or bigger competitors or other companies in the NA category that are making great beer. And I would agree. I think it should be a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm sure there's some that you drink and you're like, I don't really care for that one so much, but that's fine. And others you might be like, yeah, that's a really good beer. And what I guess to go back to my actual question here, I mean, if you think about craft beer, and Will, I'm curious to get your thoughts with all of your experience in that space. There's always been a collaboration that seems to have existed in regular craft beer in the traditional alcohol world. And in the NA world, there still remains, I guess, a little bit of secrecy, which, I can understand from a competitive standpoint. You're trying to build this business and everybody's trying to do their own thing. But especially as it relates to safety, there's not specific guidelines yet around safety. And so there's a lot of questions about what that should look like. And so it might be nice to see more of that collaboration, but just curious what your thoughts are in general on that. And, if you think that'll change as the industry gets a little more mature, is it because we're, in this early stage, or, what are your thoughts on what that might look like as it grows?
That's a good question. I've never really heard it put that way before. I think, yeah, lots of collaboration, traditional craft beer. I think it'll come. I think you're right. I think we'll start to see it. We've actually spoken to traditional craft breweries about doing collaborations, but kind of answering all your questions in one, going back to the food safety measures, the beers really have to be produced at a facility that has like FSMA and food safety regulations done. And it also the product needs to be handled in certain ways to make it safe and stable and make sure that it's under non-alc, is non-alc, and stays non-alc, and it's safe and it's shelf stable. And so that can't just be done at any brewery. And so the collaboration, if you will, would probably have to happen at the NA brewery location. And since a lot of us are startups still, it can be challenging. So I think it's not a matter of there are people not wanting to do it and not getting into it. I think it's just a little bit of like the logistics right now, but I think you'll start to see that open up a little bit. And I think it'd be really fun to do for sure. And I think it's great. Like what we have seen in collaboration side is behind the scenes, there's a bunch of collaboration, which is really cool. So I think the consumer hasn't seen it on the shelf yet, but the alcohol or the adult non-alcoholic beverage association, which is basically like the BA for NA beverages, has been great. It's run by a gentleman named Marcos, and there's a great membership. And there's, legislative committee, there's a product safety committee, there's a marketing committee. So we're very involved. And some of the really big names from some of the really big NA breweries are on those calls with us. And their goal is to make sure that all NA beer tastes as good as it can, because it's sort of the rising tide raises all ships mentality. And that's really what helps craft beer get going, is that everyone help each other out. And if there's going to be 30 breweries in Portland, the best thing for all those breweries is they all have generally good tasting beer. That's what keeps people coming back. So it's been a great collaborative mentality behind the scenes for sure. It's just maybe not as visible to the consumer.
No, that's great. We're familiar with AMBA a little bit as well. And
cool.
I know Marcos is doing a good job there, kind of getting the word out and getting organized at that level. So it's really great to hear that there are some things happening behind the scenes that may just not be as evident to the consumer end right now. So I'm curious, I know, Will, your other brewery, you mentioned it's a separate operation and that all makes sense, but have you had any discussions about doing kind of collabs or anything with them, or, there might be a beer on, on the Austin Street side that you would do an NA version with, or something like that, or anything that you guys have talked about?
Nothing yet. Nothing that really tickles that sense, where we've been busy and like very, very focused on kind of what's in front of us right now. So not to say that it's not going to happen someday, but kind of going back to what I said before, there's definitely like a safe and healthy split, I think, between the two. And it lets them both exist in their own way and be their own brand and their own thing. To say that there isn't some influence between recipes is pretty much impossible, given that I'm involved with both recipes. So
right.
There's no clones or anything like that, but definitely just like based on what I've learned, the beers I've drank over the years, and we've worked on at both breweries. There's definitely some tie-ins there for sure. But yeah, no direct clones or anything like that at this point in time. So we've had a great time running Kit. How we have it's been a ton of fun.
With you obviously being an established brewer, Will, in the community there, have any of the other breweries in Portland reached out to you knowing what you're doing with Kit and just curious how you're doing it or asking any questions about NA in general?
A little bit, but not too much. What people are finding out is that it's very hard to make a great non-alc beer, and it requires a lot of extra equipment, and it's not just like making another IPA. So no offense to IPA, but there's a lot to pick from. So maybe some early on, hey, like what do I need to get into this? And then it's like, I don't know if I want to go that far. I think people also like are concerned about diluting their brands too, and just saying like, I don't want to do this because this looks like a cash grab or like, so I think that's totally fair and understandable. And then a lot of what comes out of those conversations is them buying and carrying Kit in their tasting rooms and saying, well, in the meantime, if we don't do this, we have a great tasting non-alc beer available right now. Let's start selling your beer, and then maybe we'll do our own in the future. But right now, it seems like most breweries want to just have a great quality products, whether they carry wines or ciders or non-alc beer. They just want to have something that's like well done, even if they don't make it. And I think Kit is a great fit for that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So are you guys, do you have quite a few of those relationships there in your area as far as them, them carrying Kit as their NA option?
Yeah, very well. It's actually some of our best on-prem. So in the industry, that would be like a restaurant bar. Some of our best on-prem accounts are our tasting rooms for sure. And we're slowly, growing those up very nicely as well. But they've been big since the beginning for sure. And we work with a lot of traditional beer wholesalers as well. And so they there's hundreds of craft breweries in their portfolio that they distribute for already. And so it's an easy conversation. Like if you guys are looking for a craft NA beer in your tasting room, we just started working with this great company out of Portland, Maine, and I'll bring you some samples. It's like a very easy conversation.
Yeah, we've used the breweries as like quality control, quality tests for our products too. So if they like it and they love it and they're carrying their tasting rooms, that makes us feel good about the products we're putting out.
I assume, is that all can based? I know draft NA is its own thing, and you have to make sure that you're handling it properly. Have you thought at all about offering it at least locally or in some areas on draft, or are you really just focused on the can side?
Just the cans for now. The cans we already have them. It's already there. They already worked. It's good marketing too. There's the cans and hands. So
yeah, there's, like you said, there's some things. There's some, I wouldn't say obstacles, probably a harsh word, but there are definitely some finer points of draft beer that would need to be worked out. I know that some people are starting to jump into it, which I think is awesome. We don't feel like we necessarily need to be pioneers in that side of things. So it's like if somebody else is putting the time and effort, that's great. We love to see what they come up with, and maybe there's a collaborative way, for, like you were saying before, for us to learn from them. Right now, yeah, it's just we don't want to risk like Rob said, we don't want to risk quality control. It's just not worth it at this point in time. But it'd be pretty sweet to grab a pint of draft Kit at a bar or restaurant. So it's definitely easy to romanticize in our minds. We definitely talk about it a lot. So to answer your question, but for right now, yeah.
You're right. It's something, in fact, some of our recent episodes, we focused on the safety side, and people who are far smarter than I am about that topic have talked about it. So we hope to see more of that in the future, but it makes sense that you want to focus on the getting it in hands with the cans and focusing that way first. So last question I have for you guys. I know you're a 3-year-old brewery at this point. As you look ahead, I mean, what do you see as the future for Kit? What would you like that to look like, or kind of what are you focused on right now?
Great question, John. We talk about this all the time. It's what's super exciting about Kit, and I think it's the market, this market segment we're in, and I was in Europe not too long ago, and in Europe the NA market's roughly 10% to 15% of the overall beer market over there, and I would love, and Will and I talk about this a lot, but I'd love to see the United States it hit 5, 10%, 15% would be phenomenal in the next 5 to 10 years. So we see Kit playing a big role in that, being one of the earlier dedicated non-alcoholic breweries on the East Coast. We'd love to be yeah, just a major part in that growth and raising awareness to having good quality craft non-alcoholic beer as an option in grocery retail, at restaurants, bars, universities, colleges, all everywhere. So that's what we're all about. So that's what we'd love to see that happen. So that's what we're working towards.
Awesome. Well, Will and Rob, I really appreciate both of you sitting down with us and spending some time. And like I said, it was great to see you guys start to show up in our local stores down here in Georgia. So hopefully the expansion is going well, and you guys are starting to see additional stores, not just here in Georgia, but I know some of the other states that have also moved into. So we appreciate everything you guys are doing in the category and everything you're doing around mental health as well, as we talked about, and look forward to seeing where it all goes.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate it.
All right. We want to again thank Will and Rob for their time. As mentioned in the episode, we've recently been seeing their beer in more places here in Georgia where we're based, which is only helping to expand the shelf space for NA. We're excited for some episodes we have coming up for you, starting with an interview with the president CEO of the Beer Institute, a DC-based advocacy organization that represents the interest of the $400 billion beer industry in the U.S. We also have a couple more great interviews lined up next month that you won't want to miss. So make sure you're subscribed at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Cast, or wherever you choose to listen. And do you have any feedback on what you like or would like to see more of on the podcast? Go to nationbeer.com and send us a message through our web form. We'd love to hear from you. Until then, cheers.